Hello, today I'm going to talk about my student profile reflections. I've typed up some of the information, but I wanted to do a video so that I can clear some things up. So I think we would all like to think that we're not biased in the classroom, but if we're being completely honest, every one of us is. Um, I honestly don't know or don't realize that I'm being biased until later in the day sometimes. For instance, if something happens second period, sometimes I don't realize it until after lunch. And I think we're all that way. So after doing these student profiles, I'm going to attempt to be more aware of things that happen. Okay, so for my first student profile, she is a female and she is in ninth grade. She is in my regular Algebra 1 class. I asked her to help me with this assignment and she agreed. So after she filled out the questionnaires, she and I sat down and did like an interview type thing. I asked her the questions that were on this sheet and she responded. So I have typed up her responses so that you can see and I know that you can read. So I'm not going to read them all to you, but I am going to hit the high notes. So, her personality test said that she was a ESFP. So this type of person is an extrovert. It says that she's realistic, good-natured, direct, and tolerant. It also describes someone who loves having fun. Now, from what I have observed in my classroom and when I'm monitoring the hallway, this seems to be true for her. She is very honest with her peers. She is very blunt. I do not see her being mean to anyone, and I see her trying to be inclusive with her peers. Now, moving on to learning styles, she tested 60% auditory, which was very high for me, especially when I did my self-assessment. I was a visual learner. So it's surprising to me to see that she's an auditory learner, and it just supports the fact that we're all different learners. She was only 30% visual and she was 10% tactile. So she definitely needs to hear everything said aloud. And I printed off the learning style results for her because it had tips that could help her study. So I did share that with her. Now, when she took the multiple intelligence questionnaire, the top three um, things that she tested well in were logic and math, music, and body movement. I'm sorry, I don't know why that says music. That's supposed to be movement. So, it's actually surprising to me that body movement is in her top three because she is a little chunky and I do not see her move very fast ever, and she is not in gym. I don't see that happening. So, when we move on to her interests, she loves to listen to music. She loves walking outside. So I guess this would fall under her body movement. I did not know about that about her, so maybe that would go with that. She loves talking to her mom. She loves to watch movies and she loves to help people. She actually wants to either become a registered nurse or a lawyer. She told me that she wanted to be a nurse so she could help people, but she didn't think that lawyer was realistic, although she would like to do that. Okay, because she's in the ninth grade, I do not think that her political preference actually shapes who she is at the moment. So I did not ask her that because if I was in ninth grade, I would just say whatever my parents was. So I did not include that. Her ethnic affiliation is African American. Her socioeconomic status is lower class. Her mom is the only provider in her household and she does not work. So therefore I assume that her family is on welfare. Now, when I asked her about her prejudice or biases, the student told me that she doesn't have any. After we talked about some stuff for a few minutes, she said that she is prejudiced towards gay boys, but not gay girls, and she didn't know why she was only prejudiced towards one gender. In her family, in that household, it is her mom, herself, her niece who is 4, her sister who is in 7th grade. And in class, she has mentioned that she wants to have 29 kids because she wants to beat her grandmother's record of 28 kids. And yes, all biologically hers. Her religion, the student said that religion doesn't apply to her. She does believe in God, but in her household, they do not talk about God. I did not ask her about her sexuality again because I felt she was too young for that to affect her. And her body image, although the student's overweight and she's the biggest girl in her class, she says she feels good about her body, and sometimes she doesn't like that she's big, but she just loves food and she can't stop eating. There wasn't any additional information that she wanted to tell me, so um for me, the biases that I have is that sometimes she tends to talk, but she always takes notes and she volunteers for things, and in her class she stands out among the rest. So I find myself trying to coach to her and give her advice. So I have to remind myself not to give her preferential treatment. And in order to teach the student, I have to constantly remind myself that me sheltering her is not a good thing. And I have to remember that there are 7 other people in her class that I have to teach. So, moving on to student 2, the student 2 profile, he is an 11th grade male. He is the president of his class, and he's in my pre-AP Algebra 2 class. And we did it the same way as student 1. After he filled out the questionnaires, he and I had an interview. Now, his personality was an ISFJ, so he was actually an introvert, unlike the other student. And the results say that this person is dependable, trustworthy, and loyal. They're realistic, modest, careful, and wise. And from what I've observed in class, the hallway, and working alongside him for prom, I've noticed that all of these definitely described him. He is probably the most responsible student in the entire high school. His learning style surprised me because he's 40% auditory and 40% visual. So it was weird to me that they were both the same percentage, and then his tactile is 20%. So he needs to see and hear things in order to learn them. In his multiple intelligences, the student's top 3 intelligence are self, social, and body movement. This wasn't surprising for me because the student is very self aware. His interests include making money, working, mechanical engineering, and working on cars. He plans to go to college and major in mechanical engineering. His political preference, he says he doesn't have one because he judges the person, not the party. So, he said that there wasn't one. He is his ethnic affiliation is African American. Um, I wasn't sure what to put on his socioeconomic status, because his mom is the only provider and she works at a daycare in Darmont. She is an hourly worker, um, and although his father does help sometimes and he works for a chemical plant in Little Rock, he does not live with them. So I put that they were on the lower class, working class border because I'm not sure which one they would actually fall in because he did not know their salaries or their gross income for the year. He does not have any prejudices. He said other people's lives are theirs to live and it's not his business. So as long as they're happy, he's happy. His family or his household includes him, his mom, and his 2 younger brothers, one who is in 9th grade and one who is in first. He is a Christian, he's heterosexual. He said he's satisfied with his body image because he's physically fit. And additional information that he wanted me to know is that he's one of a kind and that he watches his mother and father work hard, so they are role models for him and he plans to follow in their footsteps. Now, for this student, I feel that he can do no wrong. That is my main bias. He is constantly responsible and reliable. He's a good student who always has his work. He makes good grades. When I teach this student, I try to challenge him. I give him different work so that he's challenged and not bored. I want him to be successful because he tries so hard. So, the thing that I run into with him is I have to remember myself and I have to remind him that he is still a student and not an adult. he tries to be too responsible. So for instance, when we're working on prom things together, he wants to be in charge of the money or something like that, and I'm not allowed to let him do that. So that is one thing I need to give him a reality check on. So he does get along with his peers. So these things do affect his relationship with peers. He actually takes on more of a big brother type role to his peers, and he gets on to them when they're doing things that they're not supposed to be. So, these are the two students that I picked. Thank you so much for watching, and I have attached this information. All right, thank you.